Oftentimes, domestic abusers clothe their behavior as love. However, love should not hurt. Domestic violence is defined by the Nevada Attorney General as any acts of violence, power, and coercion intended to control another person's behavior. There are 5 main categories of domestic violence. The most obvious sign of domestic violence is physical abuse, seen by bruises, cuts, or broken bones. Some victims are never touched, but threatened they will be. Often this threat is directed towards someone else, like a family member. The offender uses the threat of harm to maintain control of the victim. Sexual abuse is also used to have control of the victim. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports that sexual assault or forced sex occurs in approximately 40 to 45% of battering relationships. Emotional abuse is when the offender manipulates the victim's self-esteem by constant criticism, name-calling, and minimizing a victim's abilities. When a victim feels worthless, they are likely to believe that they deserve better treatment, so they remain in the relationship. Economic abuse is the objective use of finances to keep the victim dependent on the offender. Offenders may attempt to cause the victim to lose his or her job through harassing behavior at the victim's place of work. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, between 35 and 56% of victims are harassed at the work by their abuser. Between a quarter and a half report that they have lost a job due to domestic violence. Abuse is when the offender traumatizes the victim through intimidation and threats. Often the threats are aimed towards family members, children, coworkers, friends, and even pets. The offender does this to isolate the victim, so that all basic support must come from the offender, causing the victim to feel like they can't escape. Domestic violence has long-term effects on women. Women who have experienced domestic violence are 80% more likely to have a stroke, 70% more likely to have heart disease, 60% more likely to develop asthma, and 70% more likely to develop alcoholism. Children are also victims to the same type of abuse as adults and can develop long-lasting difficulties as a result of witnessing the abuse. This type of trauma could result in adult depression, low self-esteem, and these children have a greater chance of becoming the next generation of victims and offenders. Infants exposed to violence may not develop the attachments to their caregiver that are critical to their development and can oftentimes suffer in the failure to thrive.
He always hit me in the head or in the body, never in the face, because he wanted to cover up what he was doing, obviously. Turtlenecks are usually a surefire sign that something is going on when your face shows that. And one of the coworkers, somebody I'd only known for a month, said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Oh, I'm okay." And she pulled my turtleneck down and saw bruises on my neck. And she said, what happened to you?" And I told her that, my boyfriend had beat me with a belt. He had beat me from my neck to my feet. And she was like, "Oh no, you're not going home, you're coming with us." And I told her about my son. She's like, "I don't care, he can come too." I stayed with her for about 2 months, found out I was pregnant, called him and told him I was not ready to be a single mom again to another baby. He was like, "I promise I won't do it again." He got a medication for his mental health issues that he was dealing with, and I went back. He was good for the first month or so, and then after that he went right back into the same ways that he had been. One of the days that stands out, which is right before I went to St. Jude House, I was in at work for maybe an hour, and he called me. He said, "You got 5 minutes to get here." I worked like 15 minutes from home, so I flew home as quick as I could, and for 3.5 hours he beat me with candlesticks, like glass candles, plunger stick, his fists, aerosol cans, tried to throw me down the flight of stairs. My son watched it and was so sick that he threw up, so he literally picked him up and physically threw him into the bathtub. And he kidnapped my son, my baby, my infant, and took off with him, made me kiss him goodbye, packed up all his things, and left. And that was the point when I said, "I'm going to St. Jude House." I was only supposed to be there 30 days. They held on to me till January, so I had a good 2 months, maybe a little more than 2 months there. Met some of the most amazing people, some of the best friends I have now from there, people who work there and have watched me grow. I got an apartment. I moved to Portage, which was in Porter County, and I figured I would be safer there. He wouldn't come there. And he did. And I let him back again. And it took one time. And he got mad because I wouldn't have sex with him. And he beat me again. Slept with my phone so I couldn't call 911. The next day he left, and that was it. I didn't know who I was, but once it was over, I was free from what I had endured. Signed up for college, and I got 2 degrees in a matter of 2 years, bachelor's and my associates. I got a job working in a law firm, and that was in 2004. And now here it is, 2014 into 15, and I'm still doing it. St. Jude House, it just worked. It was just one of those things. I called them, told them my story. They said, come on. And the day after that November day, the following day is when I went.
Growing epidemic in our country, but by giving the victims and their families access to hotlines and safe houses, as well as educating our youth, we could put an end to this issue. Lines are more than just a simple call. The hotline specialists are professionals that are trained in crisis management who can help provide resources for shelters, therapy, and help the victim create a plan to safety. Hotlines allow for open anonymous communication which can alleviate the victim of shame or fear. To get the hotline number more well known and recognized by the victims, they should be advertised through social media, magazines, TV commercials, informational packets given out at high schools and in colleges, and also billboards. The hotline crisis number is 1-800-799-SAFE. Temporary stay for the moms. They provide housing to the parent and the children. They conduct educational courses to teach others the cycle of domestic violence and how to escape it, and it also provides financial resources to the victims. How can we help safe houses? We can help safe houses by donating old cell phones to them to distribute to the victims to use in case of a 911 emergency. By shopping at smile.amazon.com, you can donate money to St. Jude to raise money for their organization at no extra cost to you. And lastly, by volunteering your time, you could help tutor children who live there in any of their courses at school, like math or English. By educating our children on the long-term effects of domestic violence, together we could prevent the offenders of the next generation. Oftentimes, parents believe that they can hide domestic violence from their children, and children living within the home state otherwise. Research done by St. Jude organization suggests that between 80 and 90% of children are aware of the violence and have heard screams, seen bruises, broken bones, and abrasions sustained by their mother. We could implement domestic violence prevention in the classrooms by victims coming and talking to the students, teaching them self-defense in case they were ever put into a situation where they needed to use it, and also educating students on the signs to look for. This could be a way that the student realizes there is a problem going on at home and they should speak to a counselor.
You skip class with me. Let's stay in bed today.
Because I love you, I just want to be with you so freaking much. Because I love you.
I waited for you after Chem Lab.
You were walking with Mark?
Because I love you.
You shouldn't be hanging out with that dude.
You should know how dumb that makes me look.
I don't care if she's your lab partner.
Why do you have texts from him?
Because I love you. This number, delete.
Because I love you. This Jason number,
Delete.
and Ben,
Delete.
because I love you, I should smash your phone.
I'll let you give me your password instead. Because I love you.
I will check your texts every day.
You got lucky. Because I love you.
Because I love you.
You think it's okay.
Because I love you. You understand.
Because I love you, you stop talking to your classmates. And you feel completely alone.
Because I love you. That's not love.